Hey everyone, this is Knogat, and today I want to give you a remote duel replay analysis. So this is me on Fairy Tail Magistus against Lilith on Cooltune Elfnote. If you are a fan of German Yu-Gi-Oh content, definitely check out Lilith's channel. I'll link it down in the description. So here we go for the dice roll. Basically, I ask whether it should be even or odd, and if Lilith guesses that correctly, then Lilith can go first. So here we have one. So Lilith will go first. We do show our hands at the start of the game, but not to each other. This is just for the recording. So we do not know what the opponent has. I just asked for showing the hands just so that I can analyze this replay a bit better. So in my starting hand, there is a Fairy Tail Ball, 2 Spenta, 1 Luna, and 1 Rilliona. In Lilith's hand, there is an Elfnote Power Patron. There is a Rico, Lucina, Synchro Overtake, and Rhapsody. So you can see in my hand, I actually already have 2 Spenta, which is a redundant card, plus 2 normal summons. So this is not a good hand, especially if you consider we are against a combo hybrid deck. But we're just gonna play it out here a bit. And Lilith is gonna go first with a normal summon of Rico. That is gonna add a copy of Rotary, which was missing in the hand. And we're gonna use that Rotary and reveal the Elfnote Power Patron in our hand. So that is gonna normal summon the Elfnote Power Patron, which is a level 1 tuner, but could also modulate the level of Rico. But we're just gonna go for a Trackmaker first, so that we can get our 2 adds and also take a look into the hand now. Important note that if this was a tournament setting, I would have conceded right here, because my opponent is on a combo hybrid, obviously, because there's an Elfnote card on the field, and they're gonna see my hand, which is not a good hand for pushing into boards. So I rather preserve the knowledge for myself in going into game 2. Plus, also in a tournament setting, you will have a timer. So playing this out and seeing the whole combo unfold would just take off too much time off the clock and would make it harder to actually end the match in time. But since this was just a remote duel, just for testing, I just decided to let it play out. I show my hand. It is not a good one. And Lilith adds a copy of Q with the Trackmaker that was Chain Link 2. And now after seeing the hand, there will be a JJ Cooltune added to the hand as well to further extend. There's no hand traps in my hand, so now we are just free to combo off. So you're going to activate the JJ Cooltune, granting us an extra normal summon. And that is not going to be converted yet. There's going to be a special summon of a Lucina and the effect of Lucina to add an Elfnote card. We are picking Regina here, but I think we are correcting that immediately into a Tinia. And then we're performing a Synchro Summon with the Elfnote Power Patron that we haven't used yet into a Strelitzia. So we're going to trigger the Elfnote Power Patron to search, and now we're adding the Regina to hand. Now the Elfnote Power Patron, the Strelitzia is going to revive the Elfnote Power Patron so that we can make a level 8 Synchro. That could be a Crystal Wing or an Axel Synchro or an Omega, depending on the deck. Since there was no hand trap in hand, we just decide to go Axel Stardust so that we can get access to an extra tuner plus more flexibility in the opponent's turn, which is always good. We also didn't see any board breakers, so we don't have to worry about that for now. That was just a full engine hand. So we're summoning the Tinia, and Tinia is gonna place a copy of Welcome Home from the deck. Then we're gonna level modulate the Tinia, so it is a level 9, and then we can synchro it and the Elfnote Power Patron into a level 10 synchro, which is Cheng Ying here. Cheng Ying obviously has the synergy with Tinia, that if Tinia rips a card from the hand, that immediately triggers the Cheng Ying. We're sending the Welcome Home for Regina, and that in the middle monster zone can then summon from the deck a copy of Fortuna, which can then place the trap from the hand. So now we're going to send the Fortuna with the trap to revive the Elfnote Power Patron and make a Synchro 7, being the Dawn Dragster. We saw the field spell in hand, so having 1 spell negate is good. We then normal summon the Q. Note that we forgot to add back Regina, not that it matters in this game state, but Q is going to summon Mix. Mix is going to grab back Rico from grave, and then we're going to make a level 7 Synchro, which is the Ceylon, and I just pick up my top 2 cards from my deck for the Q effect. while we are making a remix. And the top two cards of my deck are the Tales of Fairy Tales and then the Metamorphosis. The Tales, obviously a super important card for the engine, gets banished, and then we are contemplating to put the Metamorphosis here. So we decide to put it on top because I'm probably not going to be able to stick a body on the board. We are continuing with a Synchro Overtake to reveal an RS and then summon another Rico from the deck. And then we pass on this board. So I draw my Metamorphosis and I just see how far I can get with this hand. Like, there's always a learning here. Normal summon Luna, just because Luna is the best normal summon into a board. You're going to add off the summon, and at any point, quick effect, you can try and force a bounce on a monster, especially exotic monsters that are one-offs, like Dragster, Changying. You can target those to get back to the deck. Of course, there's a lot of interaction going on here. So you can use the remix here and wait for a response. I chain Luna just so that Zalan cannot negate my add effect, and then Zalan goes ahead and negates the bounce effect of Luna. So we're going to resolve the chain. Remix is going to resolve first, summoning a Rico and adding back a mix, and then we're going to synchro summon into an RS, and we're going to resolve my Luna, which is going to add me a copy of Genia from my deck to hand. Doesn't have to be a Fairy Tale. It can be just any monster with 1850 spellcaster. The Rico, after summon, triggers and gets a clip. Now I use my Fairy Tale Ball to see if that prompts an interaction. Now, of course, Lilith knows the only spells I have is Ball and Metamorphosis, and this is an easy Dragster target. So the Dragster is going to negate the field spell and decrease its level by 2, which is going to be important for just in a bit. So here we use the Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon to tag out into a copy of Stardust Dragon and perform a Synchro Summon, making every monster summoned by it unaffected by card effects. So here's the Stardust Dragon, and then we use Rico and Zalan for a Cool Tune back-to-back, which is now unaffected. So activate Genia, and I don't exactly know what the target was. It definitely wasn't back-to-back or Stardust, because those are unaffected. But Genia is in general a good card into boards because it turns a monster into a spellcaster, and that threatens a super poly because a spellcaster plus any extra deck monster makes Chorozo. Of course, against Cool Tune, they will know what you have, so it doesn't matter there. But here, the summon of Genia will prompt the back-to-back to summon a Rico and make Crystal Wing, and now we have Genia on the field. I'm going to activate Spenta here, just to get another body on the board. That goes through. And back-to-back here actually makes all my monsters level 6, which means I can't make Rank Force, I can't Metamorphosis, and I can't make Artemis. So pretty much all of my lines are gone. So we just go next game. This was not the most interesting game, but I just wanted to play it out here. Of course, before Rotary Resolves, I would have scooped that game. So we are starting game 2. I draw my 5 cards. We cut the deck at the bottom. And I will decide to go first here. Of course, we're going to show the hands real quick. And my hand here is a Genia, a Solemn Warning, a Tales of the Fairy Tales, Zoroa, and Spenta. So even though the Tales of the Fairy Tales is a one-off, it is actually a good draw if the rest of your hand plays, because the fusion effect on it is not once per turn. So you can just activate it as a fusion spell, it goes to the grave, you get it back, you get an extra normal, and then you can fuse again. And on the other hand, we have a Droll, Lucina, Cool Tune Synchro, Magnamut, and a Cool Tune Clip. So we basically have to play through Droll here. The Magnamut can be annoying depending on the target, especially when talking about the Magistus line. And then there is the Clip, which I don't think does too much here. So we start with our normal summon, the Zoroa, and use the effect to equip. I could have started Spenta, but I think Spenta immediately played a bit into Droll. Of course, if I played Spenta if I put Spenta in the grave, I would have had a target to revive, and yeah. But like if I activated Spenta early, I would have had to search something that is not Crowley, and that means I don't get the negate because I didn't have an extra deck monster on the field yet. So I wanted to do it like this. I will miss a body like that, but I think it's safer into draw. So I activate Genya, targeting my Zoroa to special summon it. And then I'm going to link off the Genya for a second copy of Artemis. This is the easiest way to get an extra deck monster on the field. And then I use the Artemis equip to grab a copy of Crowley so that I can then special summon it and fuse. So there's going to be Chain Link 1 Crowley and then Chain Link 2 Droll. So now I'm on the Droll, but this hand plays into Droll pretty well. So Crowley will activate to fuse first, so I can protect myself from further hand traps, but also making the Zoroa, and the Zoroa can actually help get another equip, which is going to be very useful because I can now make a Chorozo for free. So now we have Chorozo and the Zoroa, and we can overlay them for our protected Wicked. Now only Imperm would stop this. So we're going to detach 2 and we can send 2. And generally, if you get to a point where you can resolve Wicked, you are definitely set for at least the grind game. So we're going to send Snow and Long Ago. Of course, we already have access to the equip spell. We're going to reset the Once Upon a Fairy Tale. And then Lilith asks how many cards I have in grave. Because of course, now we know there was a Magnamut in hand, and that is important for the Snow. But here we just reset the Long Ago. And what we can do here actually is we have a Spenta in hand that we can't activate, but we can equip the Tales of the Fairy Tale to the Wicked and use the effect to fuse. And here, before I get extra cards in the grave, the Magnamut is going to be activated, targeting my Snow. I think for a second if I should negate it, but I think my Zoroa is just worth more. Plus, the Magnamut doesn't actually add in the end phase. That was the thing I was thinking about. If the Magnamut added the Harmonia, that would be really tough for me. But since we are both on that roll, the Magnamut will just banish the Snow. And since I already have Long Ago, since I already have the Quick Play spell, I can bring back the Snow anyway. So I just let my Snow get banished here. I don't need it for this turn, and next turn I'm just going to bring it back from banishment. So the fusion resolves here. I'm going to fuse my Wicked and the Spenta, which is a spellcaster monster. So here I can go into the Weaver of Fairy Tales, which requires just a Fairy Tale monster plus a spellcaster, and it can summon a Fairy Tale monster from deck or banishment. So I could actually bring back the Snow here if I wanted to, but I think it's even more valuable here to actually summon from my deck a copy of Fairy Tale Luna. Now, Luna only adds on normal summon and we are on the draw, but Luna is just a piece of interaction that is valuable here that we can get for free. So now we activate the Spenta, banish itself, and equip an Artemis from our grave. Be resourceful, we don't need to use our extra deck here. And then we set our warning, and that is going to be our turn. Not the most impressive board per se, but this is very tough to chew through, and you're going to see in a second. So we're starting our main phase with a summon of Lucina into the middle monster zone. And since this is an Elf Node variant, what I do here is I want to pin down the middle monster zone. So I want it to be blocked, and I don't want the Lucina to resolve. So I'm going to use Once Upon a Fairy Tale to just resummon my Snow. I don't have anything in the grave, so just the Snow comes back, but the Snow is going to trigger and target the Lucina, and the only way to play around that would be a Regina, which would send for cost. But there's no Regina, it's going to get flipped face down, and we're just going to wait on this board. We still have the Luna Bounce, the Zoroa, the Weaver, and the Solemn, of course. Plus we have a Wicked in the grave, which can send our Snow to the grave so that our Snow is live again. Snow is such a huge addition to this deck. Just such a good tool to just keep your opponent from breaking your board, just to stay alive. So we're gonna go battle phase actually with the Magnamhut, and we run over the Weaver. I could have protected the Weaver by using the Wicked to send Snow and then summon Snow back to book the Magnamhut, but I figured if the battle phase is used up now, I can just use my second Snow effect to try and prevent further pushes. The Elfmood portion is already out, and here there's a tribute summon of Lucina, which I just decide to book once again. So on the summon of Lucina, I'm going to activate Wicked in the grave to summon itself and send the Snow. Note that the Wicked first summons itself and then sends. So it targets a monster, a light fairy tale, I think, and then it summons itself and then it sends. So you can't put it in the same zone, and you cannot summon it if your board is full already. So right after the summon, I'm going to use Snow. I'm going to use my Once Upon a Fairy Tale, of course, because that's going to reset itself, and I'm going to use the Genia because that is going to add itself back to my hand. And the rest is just cards that I don't need anymore. So the Snow resolves, it summons itself, and on summon books down the second Lucina. Now, in the same chain, of course, I add back the other two cards. So I set a card and I add the Genia. And I still have the Zoroa Negate, I still have the Luna, and I still have a Solemn Warning if everything goes wrong. So we're going to use a copy of Cool Tune Synchro. And I considered for a second that I could negate this with Solemn Warning because it does include an effect to summon. But I also thought if there's going to be a Cool Tune line, I could just Solemn Warning the Synchro. And if I Solemn Warning the Synchro, the summon is negated. That means also the grave effects don't trigger. So that would be a -2 for my opponent. Whereas just going Warning on the Synchro is just a 1-for-1 trade. So we're going to add Rotary here. And we're going to use the effect and show a clip. So here I can just go and Zoroa negate the extra normal summon because the regular normal summon has been used. And there's nothing you can do with this hand. So we just go game 3 here. So this just goes to show that under Droll, even under Droll, you can make a board that is at least resilient. We used 3 interrupts, I think, but with well-timed interrupts, you can already stave off good pushes. We didn't need to use Luna. We didn't need to use the Warning at all. So hopping into game 3, this time I'm going to go second again. I draw my 5 cards. And the 5 cards are Fuva, Genia, Droplet, Lacrima, and Spenta. And I have to play against 2 Mix, 1 Rotary, 1 Manadium Counter Trap, and 1 Ghost Ogre. So this hand for me is something I would like seeing going second. We have Fuvalos to force them into a half board, unless they have Ash. We have a Droplet to take care of pieces on the board. We have a Lacrima of Light. That means any reaction from them gives me a full combo. We have Spenta for utility. In this case, it would give me a normal summon, the Zoroa or the Aureliona. And we have Genia to special summon itself. Especially going second, you can just target, of course, an opponent's monster, and that applies pressure onto them because it turns them into a spellcaster. So we can also make good super poly plays. So not a lot of ways to interact with them on their turn, but one-on-one hand traps against Cool Tune are generally not the best plan. So in standby phase, I throw the Fuvalos because if they start with Q and I chain Fuvalos and they have a Synchro, they can just Synchro into Rotary and use the effect to Synchro Summon, go into Trackmaker, and then they get the full setup without giving me a single draw. So I'd rather just Fuvalos right away, so I force the half board while going 1-for-1 with the Fuvalos. Of course, this could be punished by Gamma, but Gamma is a one-off. So I always take my chances there. 1-off Gamma versus 3 Synchro. So we go Rotary, reveal Mix. and then extra normal summon the mix. I let that go, and the mix is gonna search for a copy of Rico here. Now, of course, this line is worsened to draw, but I already dropped Fuvalos. So if I drawed here, I would turn off my own Fuvalos. So we add a Rico, nothing on res, and we're gonna use the regular normal summon for Rico. So Rico is gonna grab a copy of Clip here, because we're just doing a small combo into Fuva. We already have Rotary, so Rotary plus Rico is gonna make the track maker. I get a draw here, and there's going to be chain link 1 Rotary, chain link 2 track maker. It is worth noting that because this is a Fuva line, there is no queue, so my top deck will be unknown to Lilith, which is going to be very important here. So here we search off the track maker into a Cool Tune Synchro, and I reveal my hand, which the draw of the Fuvalos was a Ghost Spell, which is nice, into Remix, if that's going to happen on my turn. So there's going to be the second copy of Cool Tune Synchro. Of course, if there was a Super Poly in my hand, we would have searched for JJ Cool Tune, tributed a monster to grab another Cool Tune name, and then we only end on 1 monster on the field and set a couple of synchros. So, plus the clip in hand, of course. So here we're going to set 3 cards. 2 of them are known to me, and the third one I don't know. So we're going to draw a top deck, which is also going to be unknown for Lilith. And I try to play with the known part of my hand as much as I can, because that's the part that Cool Tune can plan for, whereas the last card will be kind of a joker in this case. So I'm going to start with the Spenta here, just so that I can get my Zoroa as my normal summon, which would provide me the most amount of bodies. And here we're going to activate the Mannadium counter trap now. This looks like an odd place to negate, but if I had gotten the Zoroa of the Spenta, I could have normaled it, not use the effect, then use Genia targeting the Zoroa to make it undestructible, and then use the Zoroa effect. So if they wanted to stop that line, then they would have used the Mannadium card, which would negate the effect but not destroy it, and then still have the other effect of Zoroa to revive. So here we're going to go and summon the Genia, targeting the mix, turning it into a spellcaster. That is going to be met with a Cool Tune Synchro. So through that Cool Tune Synchro, I can now chain the Lacrima of Light because my opponent activated a card, and I can now summon from my deck a Jenny, which is a body on the field, plus it will be able to copy my Lacrima of Light from the grave, summoning the Zoroa from my deck that I wanted to get earlier, and then from there just print a lot of bodies. That is going to prompt the second Cool Tune Synchro, and here I chain my top deck, which is a Super Poly. So I discard the Bell because now I don't fear the remix anymore, and I actually can go into Chorozo here because Mix is a spellcaster. And now because I waited with Super Poly after both synchros were used, now there is no synchro that it can be summoned with these 2 spells. So all that is happening here is 2 adds off of them. It's also noteworthy that if they didn't activate the second Cool Tune Synchro, I could have still kept the Super Poly for any of my monsters plus an extra deck monster, for example, a Zaylan, that would have been made with the Cool Tune Synchro. So I always had value out of it. But this obviously was the best case scenario where I can just take away both bodies. So I summon my Jenny, and then the last Cool Tune Synchro resolves to get Q for follow-up. The other add was a Rico because we are going to make an RS now with the clip to have some sort of board presence. Another big reason to go for an RS here, of course, is that it increases the level of Chorozo by 1. So I cannot use it for Endymion, and I cannot use it to overlay, and I cannot use it to make Artemis. It doesn't affect the Genia or the Fairy Tail monsters because they are 1850. So here I decide first I want to link off the Jenny, which is level 2, so it still works for Artemis. And then I can just use the Spenta targeting the Artemis to equip with another Artemis from my extra deck. Basically, my plan here is going to be making a Zoroa, and the Zoroa will force the RS. But here, the Artemis is going to be met with a Ghost Ogre, so I'm just going to go Droplet, send the equip before it gets destroyed to disable the RS anyway. Otherwise, my plan would have been make a Zoroa, and the Zoroa could then eat the RS, because it can also equip monsters from your opponent. But now the board is disabled. I know the Q in hand, and the last card I don't know, which is I think the second mix. But I just try to play around as much as I can. So here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the Jenny in the grave. I could generate a lot of bodies with the Jenny here, but what I want to do is, because I already have 2 level 4s, that's already an OTK. I just want to banish 2 cards and make my Zoroa to be protected from the last card in the hand, whatever that may be. So we're going to summon the Crowley here, and then use the Crowley to fuse with the Artemis into Zoroa Fusion. That is going to equip the Artemis from the grave. I could have equipped the RS, but that doesn't really matter in this scenario anymore. We're going to make the Wicked, which is going to detach 2 to send 2, now that our Chorozo is level 4 again after the negate. And we're going to send the equip spell and Machigiru, which we haven't used yet. And then we use the effect to special summon itself, and then on summon it will search us a spell. So we get the Fairy Tail Ball, which allows our monsters to attack directly, our Fairy Tail monsters, and then we can grab the Luna, equip the Tails to summon Luna, and then Luna can add a Snow. And I'm just going to fuse the Wicked and the Snow for a copy of Weaver. Now, I placed this Weaver in the main monster zone. This should be in the extra monster zone because of the way that Wicked works, where it has to summon itself into a zone and then send. So if I wanted to get more damage here, I would have had to send 2 monsters from my field to summon Snow, and then I would have space for the Wicked. We also have the... Yeah, we summon from the deck through the Weaver, the Luna. That's now main monster zones are full. So now we can attack 4 times and then get the Snow, banish 1 piece of our board, and that would be already lethal. 5 attacks is lethal with this deck, but we already would have had another effect, another attack by summoning the Wicked if we make space for that. So that's generally the game plan, going second with Fairy Tail if you can. If you can, you just want to eat their interactions and just let them add their grind game and just attack them directly for a game, if you can. If you cannot do that, just try to set up a grind game with Once Upon a Fairy Tail and Snow, while eating as many resources as you can of your opponent. Of course, this hand here was exceptionally strong going second, but generally 1 board breaker plus good engine, or 2 board breakers or Charmio board breakers should do the trick in a lot of games. Cards like Genia can help pushing into boards, Luna as well. Spenta is flexible, being a normal or special summon. So plus the graveyard effect can also provide a body with the Crowley, and so on and so forth. So this deck definitely has more game going second than I initially anticipated. If you own Forbidden Crown, also a very good card. Just pin a monster and then you attack them directly. Or if you want a budget version for that, by the way, you can try Book of Eclipse. I'm thinking about using that in my deck. But that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.